In a small village nestled between dark, towering mountains, there lay a forest known as the Whispering Woods. Locals avoided it, especially at dusk, when the wind seemed to carry hushed voices that beckoned to the curious and the brave. One autumn evening, a group of friends decided to test their courage. They gathered flashlights and ventured into the woods, laughing nervously as the sun dipped below the horizon. The trees loomed around them, their gnarled branches twisting like fingers reaching out for help. As they walked deeper, the laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. Suddenly, a soft whisper floated through the air, calling each of their names in a voice that sounded familiar, yet distant. It sent shivers down their spines. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide. "It's just the wind," Mark replied, though he didn't sound convinced. They pressed on, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. Then one by one, the friends began to disappear. First it was Jason, who wandered off to follow the whispering sound. They heard his laughter fade into the darkness. Then Mia ventured after him, drawn by the same eerie call. Each time the remaining friends called out, but their voices echoed back as if swallowed by the forest. Finally, only Sarah and Mark were left. Panic set in as they turned in circles, trying to find their lost friends. The whispers grew louder, now a cacophony of voices, each one more insistent than the last. They felt an overwhelming urge to follow the sounds, but Mark gripped Sarah's arm tightly. "We can't! We have to go back!" he shouted over the din. Just then, a shadow darted past them, a figure moving swiftly among the trees. They turned to run, but the forest seemed to close in around them. The whispers turned into screams, and the ground beneath their feet felt alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. With adrenaline pumping, they sprinted toward the exit, but the trees seemed to shift, trapping them further within the darkness. Finally, they stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, overgrown with vines. On it lay a faded photograph of their friends, smiling and carefree. As they approached, the whispers transformed into anguished wails. "Help us!" the voices cried. "We're trapped!" Realizing the truth, Sarah's heart raced. "They're not gone. They're here, somewhere in this forest." Just then, Mark let out a terrified gasp as he saw the figures of Jason and Mia emerging from the shadows, their faces blank and eyes hollow. "Help us!" they echoed, voices no longer their own. In a moment of desperation, Sarah grabbed Mark's hand and shouted, "We have to leave them! We can't stay!" With tears in her eyes, she turned to run, dragging Mark with her. The forest erupted into chaos. Branches snapped, the ground trembled, and the whispers turned into a deafening roar. As they burst through the tree line, the sounds abruptly ceased. They collapsed on the grass, gasping for air. The village lights flickered in the distance. But when they looked back at the whispering woods, there was no sign of their friends, just silence and the faintest hint of laughter carried by the wind. From that day on, they would hear the whispers every night, and the pain of their lost friends haunted them. The forest remained, waiting for the next brave souls who dared to enter, forever whispering their names.